On this episode of the Dr. Tyna Show, I'm going to share something very personal with you. If you follow me over on Instagram, you may have noticed that I have not posted anything on my main page in over 2 months. And that's because I have been in a bit of a pain trap. And I know I've talked about this a lot in the past. If you followed me for some time, you know that I struggle with chronic pain. It is pronounced sometimes. And I got into a pain trap loop that I could not get out of. It was awful, and it's consumed my life this entire summer. I also was going through a bit of, I guess we could call it a midlife crisis. It's more like a midlife career crisis, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in the show, and I think you're going to want to stick around for it because it may resonate with you. But let's get back to the pain trap because I'm finally out of it. And it was, I might cry a little bit. This one was a doozy, and I finally got out of it recently. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to talk about this because I can imagine that many of you have been stuck in this pain trap too. And if you've been in it, you know what that means. You know what that term means. It's a term I've come up with myself, but it is truly a pain trap because once you're in it, you're like stuck in this downward spiral and you cannot get out. And you try and you try and you try. And as I get older, the things that have helped me out in the past are not helping as often and as well. And so I can't rely on my good old tried and true tools to always get myself out of it. So I want to share with you what I did this time because this one was probably one of the worst ones. And I really didn't think I was going to make it out of this. Like I was getting down in the dumps of this one. And I thought, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to live like this. This is unbelievably painful and I can't seem to break the cycle. So I'm going to share with you what I did because it was a lot of things. And there wasn't any one thing that I could point my finger at. Well, there was one thing, and I'll share that after I give you all the passive care, because we have passive care with active care. You guys know I'm an active care doctor. Passive care is all the things done to you, and active care is the things that you do for yourself. So I will share the active care portion after I share the passive care portion, which is what most people resonate to is like, what can I take? What can I do to get out of this? And then I'm going to get to the part where I had to get to work. So without further ado, let's jump in. You are tuned into the Dr. Tyna Show with Dr. Tyna Moore. For more, visit drtyna.com. I have not allowed anyone to adjust me or inject me or touch me for years. And I'll try to make this short. Back around 2021, as many of you know, I pushed back hard against COVID and the nonsense that was coming out. And in 2021, it really culminated. 2022 was met with its own set of injuries and trials and tribulations. But 2021 was when my back felt like it was fusing. Like it quite literally felt like it was fusing. It was locking down on me. And I went through a horrific bout of pain back then, which I want to say was the worst pain I've ever been in. But after this round, this last month or so, I don't think so. I think this one may have been worse. It was so difficult though. And back then I was trying to find someone like myself. Like I was trying to find somebody who really understood anatomy, biomechanics, physiology, but also had a unique understanding of systemic inflammation, inflammatory processes, enteropathic arthritis. And what is that? That's a gut-derived arthritis. Enteric system is your gut, which is what I have. And I couldn't really find anyone in particular. I had so many wonderful friends try to help me and nobody could seem to unwind it. And I just couldn't seem to get out from underneath it. 2022, things got worse. I spent a large portion of those 2 years on my back. That was the only position I could be in that would help me not be in horrific pain, was laying flat on my back. And I gained weight. I felt awful. I was just getting my ass handed to me in so many ways. The censorship industrial complex was real. This is not a political statement, but the last administration definitely was targeting those who were, and we know this, it's come out, this is public knowledge now. They had a multi-million-dollar campaign against anyone speaking out against the narrative. That was me. And it was brutal. So I was just having the worst of times, if you will. It was ruining my life. It was ruining my health. And so I eventually kind of shut up about it because I was like, at that point, if you had decided to seek out the intervention, then you had done what you'd done, and we were where we were. So there was really no point in talking about any of it anymore. So that's why many of you saw me just shut up, because I was like, well, they're destroying my life slowly, and there's really no reason to, beat this drum. So my platform has always been about metabolic health, muscle, hormones. Like I talk about what I know. I talk about what I'm living. I talk about, that's what I treated in clinical practice. That was really my onus of genius, was metabolic health, HRT in its relationship to musculoskeletal pain. Because all of those things were because I was doing regenerative medicine, and you can't successfully treat musculoskeletal pain if you're not treating, or at least referring out to and dealing with, metabolic health, hormones. And then we had peptides come on board. So, that was where I was working. And so I always talk about what I know. And I have been beating this drum on strength training forever and ever and ever. And I'm so glad that people are really starting to get with it. But strength training was, in many ways, leading me into more pain. And I did not know what was going on, because that had always been my main tool to get out of pain, was to go lift, and then I'd be okay. I would still hurt, but at least I would hurt a lot less. And I just couldn't seem to get out of it. And it was from like bra strap down to hips, both hips. And I couldn't figure out where the pain was coming from. In the medicine that I do, what we want to do is, and I learned this in chiropractic college, we want to centralize the pain, meaning we treat the area and then the areas get smaller. So if you come in and your whole back's lit up, if we can get it down to a more central location, then we can treat that location more specifically. I couldn't get the pain to centralize. It just felt like from my bra strap to both of my hip joints, I was lit up like a Christmas tree, and I was on fire. And I thought that was the worst I was ever going to feel. And I didn't know how I was going to live to 80 or 90 years old like that, right? And so I was just really in a dark place, but somehow I came out of it. And then in 2023, I started utilizing microdoses of GLP-1s, and that was phenomenal. You've heard me talk about that. I've talked about my own journey. I've got multiple episodes about GLP-1s, and I talked about my own use of that. I very early on was transparent with what I was utilizing, and true microdoses. And I was having really phenomenal results. I was not just an N of one. I had patients I was working with. I had family members, and I didn't start talking about any of this until I kind of put everybody through a trial, right? And that's when I opened my mouth and started talking about it. It's now been morphed into some messed up, twisted vanity weight loss thing that all these telemedicine companies are trying to sell you into, which is a bunch of bullshit. But that's a episode I've already done, and you can go back and listen to it. I'll put that one in the show notes if you haven't heard it yet. I know some of you have lost weight on what you consider a microdose, but then when I dig deeper, you're not really on a microdose. And for the most part, most of you are actually, in every case, all of you are on either a pretty decent dose close to standard starting dose, or you're on the standard starting dose. And if you are on a true microdose and you've lost weight, what I have seen is that does not hold forever. So just know that. Anyway, I digress. It kind of quit working, right? Just specifically for this particular pain. I was still having a lot of benefit from it with other things, but I was not getting the pain relief that I really needed. And then I switched from topical estrogen creams and liposomal delivery to a patch. And I've talked about that in the past too. And getting that steady state transdermal delivery of estrogen, really a game changer, really significantly helped my pain, helped my anxiety levels, helped so many things. Talked about that in previous podcasts. Go back and listen to that one. It's a good episode. Well, then that kind of quit working. When did it quit working? I've since figured out it quit working when I switched to a generic patch. I was using a very expensive brand name patch. I switched to a generic. All my pain came roaring back. I started having a lot of symptoms of like excess estrogen. And I bagged the patch completely a few months ago. Just bagged it. Just got off it. Wanted to see what life was like without any estrogen whatsoever. That was not a great idea. But I had to kind of clean out my system, right? So then instead of going back to estrogen recently, well, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Let's stay back in time. So on and off over the past year, where have I been? I've been exceedingly burned out, like exceedingly. And I think it was because I truly went into battle during COVID. Like that was truly a battle, and you can't stay on the battlefield forever. And I didn't really get reprieve from that. I thought I did, but I really didn't, because the next thing I know, I'm opening my mouth about this GLP-1 conversation. Now, all of you have probably heard about GLP-1s by now if you're new to me, and it's not a big deal. But when I opened my mouth, 2 years ago, I got my ass handed to me. And it wasn't just, I was literally the only person, one person out on the battlefield talking about this. And I was being, there was a very concerted campaign going on with Callie Means traveling the world, going on podcasts, and a huge part of his conversation, for whatever reasons I do not understand to this day, he was vehemently against Ozempic. That has been a main talking point for Maha in the early days. And I watched this happen, and I just happened to be right behind him on all the podcasts. So of course, everybody had to bring him up and ask me what I thought. And I'll tell you what I thought. He has no medical credentials whatsoever at all, or training whatsoever, zero. So I don't understand why people with zero medical experience or clinical experience have any opinion on medications, but they seem to. And then I had to somehow weirdly in most all of these podcasts get into the topic of defending it for weight loss, which was not at all the conversation I was trying to have. And so I share this because it was very frustrating. It was very frustrating. Imagine you come up with a concept that seemingly nobody was doing. And I talked all about this on the other episode, so I'm not going to go into detail. I did my homework before I opened my mouth, and I wasn't ever trying to claim that I had invented this, but I truly, to this day, even the ones, I have friends coming up to me saying, we've been doing this for years. No, you've been standard low dosing for weight loss or body composition. That's not what I'm talking about. And I guess these folks have not listened to my content because that's never what I was talking about. And I know, because I know their patients. Their patients tell me. So we have that. It was really frustrating. And I'm trying to pioneer a concept, and I'm getting beat up, right? I'm getting beat up by the media. I'm getting discounted by the media. I'm getting my message twisted, and now it's just completely been twisted into some bizarre thing that I don't even want to have any. I'm done being the poster child for GLP-1s. I'm over it. Y'all fucked it up. I'm not interested. If you want to know what I think and what I'm trying to lay down, you know where to find me. But otherwise, I'm not here to defend it for every bizarre thing that the media decides to spin and put propaganda on. And so I was on the podcast tour. I was traveling a lot. I was eating outside of the house, which is never good for me. I was probably drinking too much alcohol, because when you're, bored on a flight, they offer you a glass of wine and you're like, of course. I'm having terrible anxiety as I'm hurtling through the sky in a tin can. I think I'll take that glass of wine. And even the tiniest little bit of wine alcohol does not sit well with me. So, too much, nowhere near. My husband jokes, because the smallest amount of wine to me is what it takes somebody. I was just at a wedding this weekend, and I had 2 drinks, and I was dying the next day. And, everyone else had multiple drinks, and they were all fine. So I'm that girl. I don't have the detox capabilities that others have due to my MTHFR mutation status. So whatever it was, and then there's toxins in your environment. You're sleeping on sheets at hotels that have so much bleach and starch in them, and all these things that just my system did not do well with. So I just started getting puffy and heavy, and I felt awful, and my pain was ramping up, and I couldn't really get out of it. And so I went off the estrogen, like I said, and that was, I think, this last fall. I want to say fall or winter. No, probably winter. Early spring, 2025. It was in 2025. Yeah, I'm sorry. Early spring, late winter. Went off of the estrogen, went off of any testosterone I was taking, and just wanted to clean up that. Because estrogen and testosterone are very similar. And, testosterone can convert into estrogen. And so I was trying to avoid actual estrone. I really think estrone's a culprit for me. Estrone is the estrogen that we make from our body fat. And that one can be very pro-inflammatory. And I just don't think it's my friend. So I got off the testosterone so there would be no conversion. I got off the DHEA. I got off everything that might convert into estrogen. And I really deprived myself of estrogen to see how I would feel. And I was actually feeling okay, because I'm still in perimenopause. I still cycle completely regularly. But my FSH is really high. So that tells me that the brain's not getting the signal. And we don't want high FSH. It's not good for our bones. It's not good for anything. So I just thought, I'll give it a minute, see how my body adapts. Maybe I'm making enough on my own right now. Maybe when the stress goes down, I'll make enough. We use hormone replacement therapy often, but we have to consider that maybe our stressful lives are what's driving the hormonal imbalances and deficiencies, right? We're just drying ourselves up of it. So I thought, I'm not on the podcast tour anymore. I'm home a lot more. I canceled everything. I canceled everything through the end of this year. I literally canceled all speaking engagements, almost every single podcast I said no to, or I delayed. So all of you that have asked me to be on your podcast, I'm coming. Just hang in there. Not everyone, because I can't do all of them. But if I've given you a delayed answer, I plan on doing it this fall or winter after I move. And I gave myself that opportunity to get off the estrogens and see how I felt. And I felt okay. And so then I was like, you know what? I can't keep doing this alone. I'm going to go see my buddy. He's a great clinician. And I thought I'll let him adjust me and get some mobility in there and see if we're going to do maybe some regenerative injection therapies. And I'm going to start this process of getting this handled, because this pain is really just, at that time, I think, probably I could say I was safely a 6 out of 10 at almost any time of day. And it exhausts you. It's exhausting. It ages you. It's exhausting. And there was not a lot I could do about it, because I was trying to stay mobile, but just the littlest bit too much weight on that trap bar with a deadlift, with that axial compression on my spine, would set me off. And so I never knew what workouts were going to send me into a flare. So I was working out consistently, but nowhere near as consistently as I'm used to, and not feeling great about that, right? Kind of gaining weight again. Just, it's like up and down and up and down and up and down. It's been this way for the last couple of years. And I really just wanted a big upswing, like a big long upswing. And I wasn't getting there. And so I decided I'm going to get some help here. I'm going to let somebody touch me and treat. I mean, I'm talking no massages, no nothing. Like, I just did not want to be touched for years. I think I've gotten like one massage in the past 5 years. I just don't want anyone touching me. It was too unpredictable what was going to flare me. And I could go weeks at a time with like a 2 out of 10 pain. And then all of a sudden, one little misstep, literally like stepping off the curb wrong or something, and I would just light back up. And so I did the gut protocols. I did all the things. And when I treat my gut, I feel better while I'm on the gut protocol. But inevitably, that microflora is going to grow back. Whatever's really deeply embedded there. It's like weeds. When you never really get rid of SIBO. Don't let anyone ever convince you that you really get rid of SIBO. You don't. And any of you clinicians who think you're getting rid of SIBO, I challenge you to revisit those patients in a couple of years, because it just never fully goes away. And I know this from not only my own personal experience, but lots of clinical experience. You can get this stuff down, but you can't successfully eradicate it, because what's deep-seated in that person's gut is what's there. And so anyway, I did all the things. I have access to all the things. And I thought, the one thing I need to do is have somebody come in and do some passive care on me. I need some passive care. I need somebody to put their hands on me and treat me. So I had my buddy adjust me, and he adjusted my mid-back pretty vigorously, which I wanted. I asked him to do that. I just really wanted to get some mobility in there. It was really, you always see me doing this. It's because my mid-back is stuck right across my bra strap. I also got some imaging done. I'm not a huge fan of imaging, because imaging, more often than not, there's nothing on imaging that's going to change the treatment protocol at all. And it very often messes up the patient's head, because they get a look at what's in there and it often looks much worse than it is. And then they get all pithed in their brain, right? So that's what happened to me. I got x-rays done. I was actually quite happy. My spine looked way more beautiful than I anticipated. I had good disc height. Everything looked really, really, really pretty. And I was pleased. I have a scoliosis, which I knew was happening because one of my legs is shorter than the other. We all have little anatomical variances. I have a big one. I don't like wearing a heel lift, so I don't. So now I have this like curve. But it had never really bothered me in the past. So I didn't think that was the pain generator. And my mid-thoracic back looked not awesome. Like something had happened. Something had happened and it kind of gnarled up a couple of my end plates and I couldn't put my finger on it. So he adjusts me the same time I get my x-rays back. It's all in the same week. That adjustment sent me into the pain trap. It sent me into a tailspin, an absolute hellish tailspin. And I will not go into long, boring descriptions, but all I can say is for about 2 weeks, I could not breathe. I literally couldn't breathe without pain because it was that mid back. It was like the worst toothache you've ever had in your mid back. And so I couldn't sit, I couldn't lie, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything without holding myself in this sort of like C curve, trying to get the weight off the discs and the facets. And I was holding my breath the whole time. And I was in so much pain. I could not even start to comprehend what I should do to get out of it. It was not fun. I couldn't foam roll. I couldn't do Pilates. I couldn't do anything. I could do nothing. I could not lift weights. My gym has collected a nice thick layer of dust. And I was in a world of hurt. He gave me some pharmaceutical interventions to try. I tried them. I did not like any of them. None of them felt great. I didn't like the side effects. Nothing was working. A little bit of Medrol, little bit of steroid, low dose steroid gave me capacity to breathe and move. And once I could start breathing and doing some rib breathing, breathing into the back of my ribs and moving a little bit, then I was able to sort of like catch my breath, right? But I still was, I think at that point when when we were at the worst, 8 out of 10 pain, really. My 10 is high. It was bad. It was so bad. And I couldn't see up from down. I didn't know how I was going to get out of it. I could not think. So I took the steroids and I took them for a few days, very low dose. I did not do the dose taper up that you normally do. I just did a very low dose for a couple days just to give me some breathing room. I took way more ibuprofen than I care to admit, but that did give a little bit of relief. And I was like, I have to be able to move. I have to be able to work, first of all, but I have to be able to move because it's in the movement. I always say this to patients is if I can get you moving, I can get you out of pain so much faster. But the longer you stay trapped in that like spasm, the worse off you are. So this is why I always say like move as soon as you can after surgery or after injury, like get moving as soon as you can. So I was really motivated to try to get moving, but it wasn't working. And even laying flat on my back was miserable. So what did I do? I did not want to take that Medrol for more than, I think I took it for 2 or 3 days, little tiny dose. Like I said, that gave me just a little bit of a leg up to kind of get working again. Took a litany of peptides. Nothing was unlocking me. Now my pain would come and go and I was feeling a little bit better, but nothing was unlocking my spine. My spine was just locked up. Then I started having kinetic chain issues and my knee started behaving weirdly because I was walking weird. And knock on wood, I have good knees. Of all the things, I have good knees and good shoulders. So my knee started barking at me and I was like, oh no, this is not good. And then my foot locked up on me. And I know how to adjust feet. Not every chiropractor does. I'm actually a really good extremity adjuster. Not like the best in the world, but I'm pretty good at it. And I couldn't adjust my own feet, right? It's hard. You need like a long axis. So I was doing the best I could to get my foot mobility back and it just wasn't. And I was trying to it's summer here in Oregon. It's so fun to go to the fairs and to go to all these different events. So I'm walking on a lot of uneven ground, which is not helping me. Uneven ground. My husband pointed that out. He's like, I think he's like, I forget how he said it, but he was like, your spine has grown up in the city on cement and you've been a mess ever since you came out to the farm with this uneven ground. And I'm like, I think he's onto something. Uneven ground is hard on me. So, but you'd think it would be like the feet and the knees more than anything. No, I don't know. For me, it's my hips and my spine. So I'm walking on uneven ground. I'm not stopping. I keep going, I'm trucking along, but I am like in so much pain at this point from tip to toe. And it's now significantly impacting my intimacy with my husband. And that's really important in our marriage. And we have a very healthy life in that capacity. And I couldn't bear the thought of even messing up my spine any worse than it was. So like there wasn't a lot of intimacy. I didn't want to be touched by him. Just nothing was going well. And you guys were not seeing me on Instagram because I was not posting, and I was trying to figure out what my next best step was. Like, what am I going to do here? And I, of course, got caught up in my own head because I'm in this pain trap and I can't breathe and I can't get out. And so I made myself try everything. And I'll tell you what helped. I have a power plate, and that I have a couple different types of vibration plates actually. And the power plate was the best. It's got 3 motors, and it's kind of like the Cadillac of the vibration plates. So, if you're in the market for one, but they're not cheap. And I got on the power plate, and because these 3 motors move in 3 different directions, I was able to get some vibration going. And your vibration in your spinal cord, you have different tracks that deliver different information. So there's like pressure, there's temperature, there's pain, sharp pain, there's vibration. And so when you can interrupt, you can interrupt pain with 2 things: vibration and mechanoreceptor stimulation, which is kind of the same thing, but movement overrides pain. Just remember that. If that's all you take from this episode, movement overrides pain. That's why I'm trying to get people moving as soon as possible. And that's why I was trying to get moving as soon as possible. But everything I did locked me into spasm, or I don't even know what it was. It was horrific. But the vibration plate gave me a few minutes of reprieve. I was in so much pain though that the vibration going through those segments of my spine was intolerable some days. So I would just do the lowest setting, maybe 1 to 2 minutes. Lowest setting, 1 to 2 minutes, till I worked myself up to the full 9 minutes. I still never go above the setting of 1. I have no idea how hardcore that vibration plate goes, that power plate. I love it though. I'm taking it to Arizona. I love it. This thing saved my ass, literally. So that was step 1. I'm going to get on the vibration plate. Step 2 was sauna. And the way I used it was not even to sit there and sweat because sitting was so uncomfortable. I used it to heat up my tissues so that I can move. Now, infrared penetrates up to 2 inches. And of course, it's summer, so I'm going outside a lot to get that infrared. That's the best infrared. But I would go into the sauna. I have a sauna space sauna, which is the red bulbs. And those are like lizard lamps. Those would directly heat my spine, which felt really, really good, and give me red light and give me infrared. And then I have a sunlighten sauna that's far infrared. So it's just a dark box. It's like the box that you walk into. And that gave me a different kind of relief. So I was utilizing sauna, and then I would go for walks. And so sauna was very, very helpful in getting the, just that super bad locked up feeling to give me, I'm going to go do it actually after I get off this podcast. The sauna is the warm up. It warms up the tissues. So that gave me really, really great relief too. All of the relief was momentary, it was just for a time period, but it was enough to open a window of opportunity to get moving. So I'm sharing all this with you because I'm hoping to be teaching you something in the process here. Because the thing that we do when we get into pain is our muscles splint and then we lock down. And then in that process, all kinds of, in my case, I was adjusted and that aggravated whatever was going on in there. And then you get this sort of cytokine storm where the body's trying to come in and heal, or, say you slip a disc. If you've got you don't really slip a disc, you bulge a disc, but say you get a disc herniation, half of the battle there is the chemical soup that comes in trying to heal the area. But what it brings with it is a lot of inflammatory markers. And so mobility, moving is what flushes that out, gets new nutrients in, and flushes out the bad stuff, right? The metabolites. So we got to be moving. So that was how I kept myself moving, was vibration and heat, those 2 things. Now, heating pad, bathtub, you bet. I was doing all of it. So good on that. Another thing that really helped me was I have a red light bed. I have a big red light bed, like a clinical grade red light bed. And again, I know this is not in everybody's budget or in the space in their home, but if you are in the market for one, I absolutely adore my red light bed. I will make sure the link is in the show notes and you can talk to somebody there and to see if that's right for you. Love the red light bed. Could not get in the red light bed initially because I have one that's a little bit of a concave surface. I would highly encourage you, if you have chronic pain or spinal pain, to get the flat one. I wish I had. He tried to talk me into the flat one. I didn't do it. And you bet I wish I had during that, because getting in and out of that curved surface was very difficult when I was in acute pain and when it was really, really bad. But the red light bed, very helpful, I believe. I also have a PEMF mat. Now, I used to use a PEMF mat that, you can buy I think higher dose is the one that I promoted in the past. The PEMF mat I got through Da Vinci, which is where I got my red light bed through. And this one is the Superhuman Protocol. So if you've heard of the Superhuman Protocol, it's the red light bed, it's the PEMF mat, it's a higher ticket PEMF mat, and then there's an oxygen combo that you do. So I did all of that just to try to open the window again so that I could move. I was trying to speed up mitochondrial health and, genesis and try to get things moving. So apparently I was throwing everything but the kitchen sink at it. And each one of those things had to happen in phases because I was, like I said, I was so acutely tender and in pain that nothing was easy. So I was doing what I could as I could. So I'm doing all of that. Those are all passive care, right? Those are all things that are done to me. I'm not actually moving or exercising. I'm just standing on things or laying in things or sitting in things, right? I'm not actually doing anything. But sometimes we need that passive care initially to get over the hump. So I was doing all that with the intention of movement. Now, the movement I was doing when I said I had those windows open was walking. That was the best I could do. So I'm hobbling around the farm as best I can on the most even surfaces that we have out here so that I'm not all over uneven surfaces. And I worked really, really hard to just keep some mobility up. Then, this is interesting. I decided, okay, I definitely need some estrogen, but instead of going on estrogen, I'm going to go back on testosterone because it's anabolic and it's going to give me an opportunity to heal. Because often when people are low testosterone and they need to heal, they will not heal adequately unless they have it. So I went on it and I'm not sure what happened, and I don't know if it's related. And it's very interesting because normally I have found clinically and personally that the use of therapeutic testosterone replacement therapy in women and men really help alleviate pain. I did a whole podcast on that too. You can learn about that we'll put that in the show notes. And I think it ramped up my pain in this case. I do not know why. I still haven't figured that out, but I felt like my pain I had finally gotten it to a place where I was like, okay, I can breathe. I'm not great, but I can breathe. I'm not ready to go back in the gym yet, but I can breathe. I'm doing my rehab on the floor every night. I'm, doing some mobility. I'm doing what I can here. I still do not feel confident enough to even foam roll over the region of my mid back, but I'm getting better. And all of a sudden I go right back up to like an 8 or 9 out of 10, the days that I use the testosterone replacement therapy. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening to me? So I went off of it. And a couple days later, my pain went back down to the roar, not a dull roar, but the roar that it was, not the high roar, but back to, where I had started before I tried the testosterone. So who knows? Obviously I need it. I'm low. So I'm going to go back on it again, maybe at a lower dose. I'm going to play with that later. Let me just get you up to date to where I'm at. So here's what I did. I studied classical Pilates for years and years and years, and I have always used it throughout the years to get out of pain when I'm really bad. And I have a reformer. I have a beautiful Gratz, like vintage reformer. It's beautiful. And it sits in my basement, and it was collecting a thick layer of dust also, and I was not using it. And I don't know why. I don't know why I didn't think of it. I look at it, and I thought, oh my God, like this is the answer out. This is the ticket out. This is how I'm going to get out of this. I don't know what it was. I was praying. I was crying. It had been such a lousy several weeks. I was having the hardest time. And I was like, this is it. This is going to get me out of here. And I cleaned it off and I made myself a promise that I was going to lay down on that reformer every single day, whether I could move or not. If I just had to lay there and cry, then I was going to cry, but that I knew what to do because I have trained myself in what to do. And I'm so grateful that I have spent the time and money that I've spent training in Pilates. I'm so grateful that I have spent the time and money training in kettlebells and training in strength training, because it's been so crazy how many times in my life these tools, these are skill sets, and these skill sets and these tools have gotten me out of lurches that I don't know if I would have gotten out of otherwise. Like movement always saves me. It always saves me. Prayer and movement. And the beautiful thing about the reformer is you can pray while you're on it because it's just this beautiful gliding, carriage that goes up and down, and you got the springs and the foot straps and all the things. And I know how to use it all. So In traditional classical Pilates, there's a very specific repertoire. There's a very specific set of exercises that you do in a specific order. And oh my gosh, you guys, the first day I literally just laid there and cried. And then the second day I came down and I turn on my red lights. I turn down the overhead lights, and I usually play like Radiohead or Led Zeppelin or I don't know, something that I love. And I will just move. And so I could not do the traditional set of exercises in the order. It just was not available to me. So you have to remind yourself what is available to you. And I say this because I could not imagine being a middle-aged woman having this kind of injury and not having a familiarity with movement and exercise and not having enough knowledge to get out of it. If I was like completely deconditioned and I'd had that happen to me, and I had just like walked into a Pilates studio trying to get over it, it would have been such a massive hill to overcome. But because I have the tools available, because I have the skill set, I'm not saying this to brag, I'm saying this to like motivate you guys into action. When you're younger, learn some of these things. Learn some things that will help you, like make movement a part of your life so that movement becomes a tool to get you out of a lurch and get you out of, whether it's, gosh, the death of loved ones, the death of my dog, divorces, separations, high stress, battling it out during COVID days. If I didn't have training, if I didn't have these tools available, there's no way I would have made it at all. There's just no way. So I knew what to do. I utilized the movements that were available to me. And I got my ass on that reformer every single day. I have not missed a day. Even if I just laid there and did footwork and then got off. Or even if I just laid there and like did some extension with the box and then got off. Whatever it was. I worked with what was available to me. Slowly but surely the moves started coming back to me. Slowly but surely I started remembering the sequence of them, the flow. And it's so cool because you get into a flow state and it's awesome. And if you do it right, you get the springs right. Everything's a flow. Everything's, very specific movements. And so I'm nowhere near, gosh, it's so humbling. I'm nowhere near what I used to be. I have completely lost the ability to do the high level stuff. But man, I have the basics and I'm doing them. So that has been the biggest needle mover for me. And if I didn't have a reformer here, I would have been in a studio doing my best to get one-on-one sessions. Would be my advice, is go get one-on-one sessions. If you're really injured or you're coming out of bad injury, I don't think that group classes are the answer. I think that one-on-one sessions are well worth the money to get you over it. And I can't think of a better way to rehab spinal issues than Pilates. Spinal pain is very different. I'm going to refer to it as axial pain. That's your axial skeleton. Axial pain, that is a systemic inflammatory process due to some kind of enteropathic arthritis or inflammatory arthritis, is a completely different beast than joint pain in your other joints. I honor joint pain in the other joints. I've had it before. I know what having horrifically painful shoulders feels like. I know what having horrifically painful hips feels like. I know what having a bunged up elbow and hands and feet and knees even. I've had knee pain, but axial pain is, if you had it, and I don't just mean axial, and I respect everyone who's had like acute axial pain from an injury or a disc herniation. I'm talking an inflammatory process, like those of us who have psoriatic arthritis or ankylosing spondylitis, like the central axial kind of things. It's just a whole different world and everything glues up. So every time the inflammatory process hits, when you come out of it, you are completely glued up. Like it feels like somebody literally spot welded your whole spine together and you have no movement and no mobility and it's awful. So the reformer is such a beautiful piece of equipment, and I have a Pilates chair and I have a tower. So I can do a lot of, for those of you who know Pilates, I can do a lot in my little space, and just having those three pieces of equipment was an absolute godsend. And I mean, I don't think I would have gotten out of this because I got the initial inflammatory process to slow its roll with all the other tools I mentioned, but I couldn't get my spine to unglue. And that was potentiating the pain. So my foot was still messed up. My pelvis still hurt. My neck was starting to hurt. And even though that initial like super hot, searing 9 out of 10, somebody lit my spine up with acid feeling was gone, or like at least turned down. I was so glued up now that I couldn't, it was a whole different set of discomfort and pain and immobility. And so I can safely say that everything has sort of popped and clicked its way back into where it's supposed to be. And I'm going to yet again try to go get some manual therapy done to me because I think, say a prayer for me that doesn't light me up, but I think that I can handle it now. But that reformer was it. And what was that? That was active care. That's why I talk about it. It's active care. It was me moving my body. It is contingent on me moving my body every day. It is contingent on me putting in the work every day. So this is why we don't want to ever go to any one doctor that just does a passive care model. And if that's all they do, that's okay. Find somebody who will do active care with you. But I promise you, if you're trying to get out of pain, movement is your best friend. Vibration is great. That's why a lot of times you see these Theragun, massagers, and people think they're like massaging their muscle. A lot of time it's just the vibration of that gizmo that's actually decreasing your pain. Vibration is fantastic, but movement and mechanoreceptors being stimulated overrides pain receptors in your spinal column and in your brain. So movement overrides pain, and that will get you further faster. I want to add in some supplements I took. I took copious amounts of fish oil. And I know you purists out there are going to come at me. I don't care. It works for me. It works every time for me. I'm not going to tell you how much. I will tell you that inflammation is impacted. The anti-inflammatory benefits of fish oil kicks in around 3,000 milligrams. And if you're taking low quality fish oil or you're taking like Costco level fish oil, you're basically taking the sewer of the sea. So invest in some high quality fish oil. It is costly. It's not cheap. And the doses that I'm taking are really not cheap. So a good quality fish oil can't be beat. I like Puori. That's what I use. It's a great fish oil. If it's not in this show, if you go back to some of my other shows, they sponsor this podcast, you can find a discount code. So it's in the show notes of one of the other shows somewhere nearby this episode, either before and back of it. I took a ridiculous amount of curcumin, a bioavailable form that is easily absorbed. Curcumin on its own is not easily absorbed. So I have a very wonderful, also costly bioavailable form that was in my own line. I used to carry it in my own Tyna line. Oh, by the way, I am discontinuing my supplement line. I'm trying to simplify my life significantly before I move to Arizona. And so there's only a few weeks left. I'm closing the store down. Stock is very limited. So if there's something in there, we just restocked Relax Tonic. We should be getting some Chill Pill in shortly if those are your go-to. I think we've got a couple Vital Brain. We've got a couple Amino Thrive, a couple Lipo Thrive, a few Liver Love. So go get them. Most of them are on sale. The Relax Tonic and the Chill Pill is not. Everything else is marked down. Go get it. Go get what you want. I'm closing the store. And I know you guys are going to be like, where's my supplement? Where's the store? I'm shutting it down. I just don't want to do it anymore. That was part of my midlife crisis, my mid-career crisis, I should call it. So lots of curcumin, lots of fish oil, gut protocol. Not going to get into that. That's a whole thing. I think that's it. Those are the big needle movers. Definitely I always treat my gut when I get into a pinch with pain because, like I said, it's enteropathic and every time that helps. And then I pound copious amounts of fish oil and curcumin. Doses way higher than I would ever recommend publicly that I only do under the watchful eye of when I am treating a patient. So I'm not going to get into it, but it is copious amounts. And that always snaps me out of it. That helps more than ibuprofen. And it takes a minute to kick in. It's not instantaneous. It takes a minute. So I've been continuing on with that. The thing with vitamin D, the LipoThrive that I carry in my line, it's vitamin D and K. And there's stock left of that. So go get some. It's liposomal, so it's highly bioavailable. And vitamin D has been shown just as a standalone to be very efficacious. We've had studies going back a long time, like since I was a student in school, showing improvements in low back discomfort with vitamin D. So I'm not saying that it prevents, treats, or cures anything, but there is a link, and I've seen it clinically. And so if you have axial issues, consider under the guidance of your doctor. Obviously, that's something you want to get your levels checked, and you want to make sure that you're working with somebody because we don't want to be taking high doses of vitamin D. But vitamin D, vitamin K is integral for bone health. Vitamin K helps you, the K2 in particular, helps your body not lay down calcium where it shouldn't go. It helps put it where it should go. And so I just think that the combo is brilliant. It's a great product. So go check it out. But if you're not doing D, talk to your doctor about D, because that's a big needle mover. I think those were the big ones. I think that was what got, and then going to bed on time and really making sure that I go to bed on time. Okay. So that brings me back to the estrogen. I was going to bed on time, and I won't belabor this conversation too much further. I was going to bed on time, but I was waking up at 3 a.m, freaking out, completely freaking out, because I am moving. I'm moving all my businesses to Arizona. I am moving all my bank accounts to Arizona. I am moving myself. I'm trying to get my family moved if they would listen to me. I have a storage unit here. I've got a pod. I mean, I got everything going. I am busy, and it's a lot of plates in the air, and it's a lot of moving parts. And I keep waking up at 2 or 3 a.m, like a bear is chasing me, with an absolute panic over something particular. This morning it was, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my dogs? I have 3 farm dogs, and all they've ever known is a farm. They've never known leashes. They've never known collars. They've never known walking on a sidewalk Sansa did for a hot minute before we moved out here when she was a puppy, but I, of course, am panicked. I'm like, I'm going to have 3 dogs. I have a giant German Shepherd and a medium dog, and then a little small Havanese, and I got to put them all on harnesses and leashes and walk them around a neighborhood. And that was my latest panic. But why do I say estrogen? Estrogen, in my opinion, when you can't stay asleep, you should look at estrogen. When you can't get to sleep, it's progesterone. When you can't stay asleep, it's estrogen. So I decided to go back on the patch, and I cut it up into a small sliver, and I am using the brand name, which is ridiculously expensive, but it doesn't mess me up the way the generic does. So if you have not tolerated transdermal patches of estrogen in the past, it might be because you're getting a generic, and that's very challenging because the pharmacy is going to give you what they have, and for your doctor to get you brand name is going to be very difficult. And the only way it happens is if your doctor gets on the phone and spends extra time they don't have. So that's highly unlikely. And then on top of it, it's so stupid expensive compared to the generic. So I'm so sorry. I have no solution for you on that, but I wanted to share that with you because it's happening. And I get messages every day, a ton of messages every day from you guys, and many of them saying, estrogen, I'm not tolerating it. I'm not tolerating the patch. I feel awful. It might be because you're getting a generic. It either doesn't last very long, or in my case, I felt like I was getting delivered too much too fast, and it was giving me kind of like estrogen dominant symptoms. So just food for thought. I wanted to throw that out there. But anyway, I went back on the patch, and my sleep is much improved. I am having a little glimmer of a waking, but I'm just waking and then going back to sleep instead of like waking and getting up and being up, at 3:30 in the morning every morning. So hallelujah, that is resolving itself. Also, my anxiety is going down significantly since going back on the patch. So I think that that's helpful. How is it impacting my pain? It absolutely is. When I use estrogen, and again, I have to use the brand name, and I'm not going to share which one because that's splitting hairs, and the chances of you being able to access that are difficult to none. So I don't know. It's so crazy. It's like you get whatever your pharmacy has ordered, and they get whatever's in stock somewhere. So it's very difficult with this type of thing to stay on a consistent dose unless you're getting a compounded topical cream, but my body doesn't seem to absorb that so well. So anyway, the brand name patches, from what I understand, and I'm not sure if I am completely accurate on this, but I have heard from hormone experts that they have a very cool technology in them, which mitigates the amount of estrogen that comes out because of this very high-tech delivery system. Anyway, using that, it's helping. And what it does is it makes everything more flexible. It makes me unlock. So I think a lot of that lockdown that I had post-inflammatory phase was probably due in part to low estrogen. I think it was compounding the issue. And so I just couldn't, it was like my spine was like a springboard. So now when I twist and turn, things are moving and popping, and I'm getting some mobility. So that's where I'm at, 100%. I'm still hopping on the vibration plate several times a week. I'm still getting in the red light bed. I'm still getting in the sauna. I'm still doing the PEMF mat. I'm on the reformer every single day, at least for I promise myself 20 minutes every single day, even if I just futz around. Sometimes I kid you not, I lay there and look at my phone and like pull on the straps a little bit if I'm in a really bad space. But normally I have a very good strategic 20-minute workout. I have a very good 45-minute to an hour flow. I'll tell you what, perfect Pilates album is Radiohead in Rainbows. Love that album. Love that album. I'm going to cry. That album, it's so funny with Radiohead. I don't know why I'm oversharing. Radiohead seems to come out with albums throughout my life since I was a teenager. I saw them for $2 when I was 18 or 19 at a venue called La Luna in Portland, which I later opened my first clinic in that same building, which is crazy. And any of you who knew old Portland know La Luna. Maybe you were at that show. The Cranberries opened. It was $2. It was crazy. Anyway, they always release an album that just like saves my ass. I can't explain why. And when In Rainbows came out, it was the year I was graduating from medical school and I was getting my license and I was going through a divorce and things were very bad. And that album saved my ass. And I listen to that album when I need to get through something tough. And so that particular album came to mind. I kept putting it on and I would move throughout the entirety of that album. And that album is one of the last great albums that I've heard where they built the album as a piece of art, from beginning to end. Each song is sequenced as like a beautiful continuity, whole piece of art. The whole thing itself is impeccable. So I listen to In Rainbows, I turn on red lights, I turn off all the other lights, and I move. I think that I think I timed it. It's like 48 minutes long. So that's my general workout. That's it. That's what I've been doing. Petting my dogs a lot, getting sun exposure on my back, making sure I get outside and walk my 3 walks a day, like always, which I always tell you to do. Morning, we want light on the eyeballs. Afternoon, we want high noon sun. We want, don't stay out there and bake in that sun, but we definitely want to I like to get a good 10, 15 minutes at least, maybe 20 minutes. And then I like to get an evening sun. I like to go for a walk with my husband and hold his hand. And we walk as a pack, the whole pack and I and my husband, and we walk around the farm. So those are the 3 times a day I highly encourage you to get outside. It sets your brain and your circadian rhythm really beautifully if you do that. There's no need to overcomplicate this, people. Everybody gets so crazy about the details, but just go outside and let your eyeballs see the sun. Don't stare at it and burn your eyeballs, but get out there. Move your buns around. And then remember, there's active care and there's passive care. Passive care is only going to get you so far. Passive care, again, is like the supplements and the treatments that someone does to you, whether they're massaging you or injecting you or foam rolling you, whatever. When you do active care, that is where true healing, in my opinion, begins. I think a lot of it's mindset. It's because you're doing the thing to get over the hump, right? You're making the choice to put yourself sometimes in intentional discomfort to get over the hump. Where's the limit? If it's sharp pain, back off. That's the rule my mentor taught me, and that's what I'll teach you. And that's what I teach my patients. Move your buns around. Those are my exact quote from my mentor. Move your buns around. And if it hurts, push through it. Unless it's sharp, then back off. You know the difference. If it's just discomfort, sometimes we have to breathe through it and work through it because this will get worse before it gets better. And I knew that getting on the reformer. I was like, this is going to get worse before it gets better. And it sure did. Those first few days, every time something would unlock or pop or release, I was in like 2 days of flared pain. It would get worse for 2 days. And it was like that. It was like somebody picked a big scab off my spine and it hurt so good. It hurt and it was sore. Like when you get your ears pierced, like super sore for 2 days and then it would get better. And I'd be like, aha, I leveled up. So I have not gotten back in the gym yet. I have not picked up a heavy weight. I have not swung a kettlebell. I have not done a squat. I have not done a weighted hip thrust. I am doing dumbbell hip thrusts. I dare not put on a weighted vest because I do not want any axial load on my spine. I dare not pick up anything too heavy because that'll put axial load on my spine. I dare not load my back with anything. I won't even carry a bag on my shoulder. I've been rocking the fanny pack, you guys, because I do not want a purse on my shoulder, like loading my spine. So that's where things are at. And I really hope I hope this is helpful to you because you may find yourself in a position someday like this and where every attempt you make just seems to flare you worse, where every good intention seems to make things harder. I know I'm going to get messages from people telling me a million different therapies and million different modalities and a million different movement strategies, and I thank you all, but I am pretty damn familiar with all of them. This is a mechanical issue alongside a systemic inflammatory issue that is a different beast. So if you are a movement guy, you know who you are. I love you all, but this isn't that. This requires a multifactorial approach. And I don't know what doctor to send you to get this, but I'm telling you, if you are stuck in a pain trap, look at different modalities. Consider HRT if you are, 45 years or older. Consider that you need more movement. Most of us do need more movement. So get with the movement folks and get moving. But that's not the only solution, right? We need to look at what we're putting in our mouth. I didn't even get into nutrition, right? What we're putting in our mouth, the foods that we're choosing to eat, the sleep that we're getting, the relationships we have. That's what I'll leave you with. My midlife crisis. My mid-career crisis. I haven't figured it all out yet. So I'm not going to speak too much on it, but I don't love the trajectory I'm on. I don't know what it was, but somewhere in the last year, I really got a good look at what the wellness industry has turned into, and I don't like it at all. And I don't want to be a part of it. And I don't like that I'm kind of homeless, right? Because I'm a naturopathic doctor. So everybody assumes I'm in that camp 100%. And some of you freak out when I talk about prescription items because you're like, how dare you? You should be a purist like we are. And some of you take real beef with HRT because you think we should just be raw dog in menopause because you went through it and you got through it, even though you tell stories of how horrific it was for you. But so we all should. So that upsets some people. And then the allopathic community thinks I'm a quack, right? And I have friends on all sides, and thank God they're my friends. And I try to bring some of them on this show, and I will continue to do so because I feel like having all sides have a conversation. I'm okay. I'm okay that I stand where I stand with vaccines, and I'm okay that my allopathic friends stand somewhere else. I'm okay with that. I don't have an issue with it. You guys seem to, some of you, but I don't. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to do it fiercely more. I am going to be Tyna, not just Dr. Tyna, but I am going to be more me than I can be because I can't keep doing this version. I love this podcast so much. I cannot stand social media. I cannot stand what social media has become. And I'll tell you, I'm not trying to complain, but there's only so much a human being can get bitched at before they just grow weary. And for all of you who say, just keep going, don't listen to the haters, you've never had hundreds of thousands of followers and had tsunamis of people bitching at you. It is wearing. It is tiresome. And it's always the same type of woman, usually. It's rarely a man. When it is, it's a very particular type of man, but it's usually other middle-aged women who desperately need some hormones, who desperately need some movement in their life, and probably need a good orgasm and a good man or woman or whatever it is that they prefer to make them happy and to get them out of whatever misery cluster they're in so they stop writing me novels and bitching at me because I no longer intercept my DMs. I no longer intercept my emails. I'm not reading any of it, you guys, because I can't. I don't want to. I don't need to get bitched at anymore. So if you feel so inclined to write me a nasty email, you will be blocked and banned and barred on every platform that we can find you on, including my email list. So if you like access to my brain, please be kind. Be kind, be considerate. It's okay. It's okay that we all have different opinions. We don't need to all you do when you write me a novel of hate and venom is show how mentally unstable you are. And then if you do it publicly, like on one of my posts, you're showing the whole world how mentally unstable you are. So I'll leave it at that. But I am going to find a new way forward. I'm shutting down the store. I don't want to sell supplements anymore. If I do have any ads on my podcast, I am contracted through the end of this year with some fantastic brands. Every brand that I share with you on this podcast, I use, I believe in. I'm going to be very selective next year and have hopefully almost completely ad-free podcast. That's my goal, is to be almost completely ad-free. It's a bold move because that's how I keep the lights on. So I'm going to ask you guys to support me in that. And I'm going to launch a subscription base, a very inexpensive subscription base, high value, incredible content behind a paywall that I'm going to ask you guys to support me in. It'll cost you a cup of coffee a month. And I think you'll be very, very happy. Opportunities for Q&As, opportunities to have interactions and get first dibs on everything cool that I come up with. Because once I move to Arizona, it's game on, because there's so many facilities there to have live events. There's facilities to hold retreats. There's so many ideas coming to me, and I just have to get in the desert and get in my pool and sort of like alchemize all this stress out, and then it will come to me. But those will sell out via the subscription, members only. So I'm going to have basically a members only VIP corner, and I'm going to just ask you to consider, when I do launch that, if you'll come support me. It would mean the world, and it would allow us to not have to hear so many damn ads in my podcast. I appreciate all my sponsors so much. I don't like ads. I don't like waiting in lines, and I don't like ads. I pay for all the non-ad versions of the TV streaming services, even though I never watch them, just so when I do watch them, I don't have to listen to ads. So I want to make this a really unique, awesome educational platform. Normally, I'm diving into more science than I did today. If you're new to the show, I was just sharing with you because I know this is going to help somebody, and I know that there are people out there who've been in the same situation as I've been in. And I know how much it sucks. And so I just want to tell you, if you're stuck in the pain trap, there's a way out. You just have to pull different levers. Consider whatever levers you got to pull, but keep trying. Don't stop, because it will eventually exhaust you and lock you in, or you will figure out how to crawl out of it. And it usually literally is crawling. Like, it's the movement part that's usually the magic piece that gets us over the hump. But we oftentimes need some of the other players there too. So anyway, I'll quit babbling. I appreciate you all so much, and I look forward to what's coming. I'm pretty excited. We're up-leveling the show in big ways. I'm building out a podcast studio. We're going to have in-person interviews, in-person, high-quality videography. Like, it's all going up, up, up from here. So wish me luck. Pray for me. I'm moving. I'm packing. I'm purging. I'm trying to get myself there, and it's a lot. And I'm trying not to let stress get me, because when the stress gets high, the pain gets high. And I think one of the reasons the pain has been decreasing is because I'm feeling more and more and more myself, and I'm feeling more in alignment with the work that I'm doing. And I'm planning and plotting how I want the future of my platform to look, the whole platform, the Instagram, all of it. I want it to be me 100%. And I want to be unapologetically me. So thank you for loving me, those of you who do. And thank you for being here. And thank you for following. And I've got good stuff coming for you. So I will bid you adieu, and thanks for listening to my rant today. Thanks for listening to the Dr. Tyna Show. This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson and mixed by Mike Fry. Theme song is by John the Guild. You can watch the full video version of this podcast inside the Spotify app or on YouTube. As always, you can email the podcast at podcast@drtyna.com. That's DRTYNA. And if you like this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also find all of my offerings on my website at drtyna.com. For more shows by my team, go to wellnessloud.com. See you next time, and thanks for listening. This podcast is for general informational purposes only. It does not constitute the practices of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. I am a doctor, but I am not your doctor. No doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content on this podcast is intended not to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.